back into the channel and welcome to yet another Star Wars Sunday, the show that we are doing once a month leading up to The Rise of Skywalker coming out in December. Now, last month was a bit of a crazy month. We didn't manage to get a stream out last month because, you know, the whole craziness of Walt Disney World was out. Everyone was there. So we just we had to skip one. So we're gonna probably do 2 movies in one of the months, or we may do like The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker in December. Who knows what's gonna happen? But we are back. Star Wars Sunday is back. Today we are talking about The Empire Strikes Back, Episode 5, and I've got 2 wonderful guests with me to discuss this movie. Firstly, the one who I do the Star Wars Sundays with, my partner channel friend, fellow Star Wars lover, Walt from Mouth Talk. Good to see you, buddy.
Thanks, Dan. It's good to be back, pal. Yeah, apologies everybody out there for last month. We had a ton going on, and we just unfortunately couldn't fit it in. But I am excited to be back, especially for this one. This is going to be a goodie, and I'm just stoked to be here. Thanks for having me again, pal.
And the force is strong with this next guest. I reached out to I knew from the start of this whole, thing that we were going to do with Star Wars Sundays. Walt had this special guest in mind. I had this special guest in mind. We had to get him on here, and it's Kyle from Eye to Eye, Disney Through Our Eyes. Welcome to Star Wars Sunday.
Thank you so much for having me here. Normally, I have my wife, Jessica, with me. She is actually back at home. I'm on the road right now, which is why I'm not in my normal studio. Instead of Disney stuff behind me, you're seeing Auburn football stuff behind me. So apologies for any. I see LSU mom is here, so apologies for that in the background for you. But thank you guys so much for having me on here. I love me some Star Wars. We've already had discussions before going live here, and I can tell this is going to be really fun tonight.
It's going to be a load of fun. Let's see who's in the chat. We've got Rachel Susag. Welcome into the stream. Steve from Steve's World Power Channel. He was on the live stream yesterday celebrating Arjon's first ever live stream. That was an awesome stream. Guys, if you missed it, go check it out. We watch Arjon's live stream of Fantasmic, and then I bring on a load of special guests, and we celebrate Arjon's first live stream. Was really, really amazing. Lorena Zapata, welcome in. LSU Mom, so good to see you too. JV, welcome. Disney Circus Girl, welcome into the stream. So many great people here waiting to talk about The Empire Strikes Back. This is the movie I think, well, I don't know about you, Kyle, but for us, especially for me and Walt doing this every single month, I think this is the one we've been most excited to talk about. This is the one we've been waiting for.
I'm excited for anything Star Wars to talk about, even if it's the most controversial movie on the planet. I don't care which one it is. Let's talk about it. So, I do have some interesting opinions about Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, that I'll share, but it doesn't matter what it is. It's fun to talk about Star Wars.
Absolutely. Timothy Rainwaters, welcome in. Walt, we finally made it to Empire.
We did. We finally did. It's funny. You talk about trilogies. Forget the prequels. Forget the new ones. When you talk just on the basis of trilogies, normally that middle movie is the one that is kind of sacrificed. It's the one that's kind of forgotten about.
Temple of Doom.
Set up the third.
Yeah.
But that's not the case with these. The middle one is the biggie. So really, it's just different than what we normally get with trilogies. But this is, I'm excited. This is the one. This is the one we've been waiting for.
Exactly.
It's the one with the jaw dropping of a lot of different things, for sure.
I absolutely agree. And let's look back in movie history. Most, franchises, the biggest thing to do after a big success of a movie is its sequel. You need to have a good sequel to progress. Without Empire, I don't think we would have Star Wars today. Even though Star Wars was a massive hit, the original Star Wars A New Hope, it was only Empire that kind of the sequels can be good. We can do this. And you look back at movie history, the sequels sometimes never were as good. Take, for example, Ghostbusters 2 or Jaws 2 or Jurassic Park Part 2.
Thor the Dark World.
Thor the Dark World Part 2. Iron Man 2. There's so many. So it was a big task for Star Wars and George Lucas to bring a second movie to the big screen. Now, I wasn't there back then. I didn't know what it was like. I want to know what the hype was. I'll go to Walt, then to Kyle. So back during the 80s, this was released in 1980?
1980.
What was it like then? What was the feeling of, right, we're getting a new Star Wars movie, the second ever Star Wars movie?
Well, I'll tell you, for me, when we went and saw the A New Hope, and at the time it wasn't called A New Hope, it was just called Star Wars. Okay, they didn't put A New Hope in there. It was in the in the crawl in the beginning, but it was just Star Wars. And after you watch Star Wars, there was no real indication that there was going to be a sequel. The Death Star had blown up. Yes, Darth Vader got away, but there was nothing in that really said there will be a sequel.
Yep.
And of course, it took 3 years for the sequels to come out because back then, movies weren't made as quickly as they are today. They took more time, less financing, things of that nature. So when we finally did see that there was going to be a sequel to this movie, it was hyped really, really big. I mean, it was an exciting thing. And have to wait 3 years. Imagine having to wait from Infinity War to Endgame for 3 years. Can you imagine having to wait 3 years for that movie? Right. Well, we did. And it was something else. I mean, good thing is you didn't really know ultimately at first that there was going to be that sequel because back then it just didn't work that way.
Yeah.
But when they did announce it, it was an exciting.
It was a big thing. I feel like the announcement of this, because obviously the original Star Wars was the biggest blockbuster after Jaws, and Jaws was the first kind of big blockbuster. So to get a sequel from the second biggest blockbuster of all time must have been a huge deal. Kyle, what about you? Were you there? What was your reaction to this new Star Wars coming out?
Well, I know I look like it, but I'm not as old as I appear to be. So I will say I wasn't even a thought process in my parents' minds when The Empire Strikes Back came out. But, it was an interesting time for me growing up. I was born in 1987, so the Star Wars movie was Return of the Jedi. And that's all you saw. You saw Jabba the Hutt, Boba Fett, the final Death Star scene. So The Empire Strikes Back was almost like this mythical beast to me because while I had seen the movie growing up, it was not the one that I grew up with. So it always was held in this high regard. And I would watch it and I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm going to say something controversial now. What's the big deal?
Right.
It's got a big battle scene at the beginning, which I love. And here's the thing. I think I've said this on somebody's stream before here in the Disney YouTube community. If you want to make me happy in a movie, take two sides, one here, and then just run them at each other like this. From that standpoint, The Empire Strikes Back is an amazing movie for me just because of that battle scene alone. But to me, I was always intrigued with what the fascination was behind Empire Strikes Back. And I think you said it perfectly at the beginning. It's because that stigma of sequels just never work. It blew past that, and it's such a great job at that it's like looked as the stamp of how to make a sequel from this point on. So while I didn't grow up with it, I understood the awe. I understood the reverence that was held amongst not just Star Wars fans, but sci-fi fans, movie fans of The Empire Strikes Back.
Right. And the other thing, too, is what this movie does, and we'll get into it a little bit, is it doesn't give you one. It gives you several cliffhangers at the end of this movie that you're like, oh, my gosh, how is this going to play out? I mean, there are several that I could just tell you off the top of my head that going into Return of the Jedi, you're like, what is going to happen with this? And you didn't get that much back then. It just didn't happen. And I think that was another big part of what made this movie so great was the fact that you have all these major cliffhangers or storylines that weren't finished, and you're like, how are they going to do this? How are they going to do that? It was pretty awesome.
And with all these cliffhangers, the Empire Strikes Back cliffhangers have inspired so many movies to. Let's take Avengers: Infinity War, right? So Empire had a really shocking moment, which we'll get to, but you can almost feel like the Russo brothers looked at the shocking moments of Empire and like, right, we want to make a shocking moment in Infinity War where, spoilers, half the universe gets snapped out of existence. So you could almost say like Empire was one of those few movies back then where cliffhangers, got you excited for the next movie because you had no idea what was going to happen next. Only One Kenobi says, before my time, I was born in 81, but loved The Empire Strikes Back as a kid. Wouldn't love to know how people reacted when it first came out, if I'd been around then. Now, Walt, did you see? You must have seen this.
I saw it. It was massive. I mean, for back then, it was awesome. I mean, you could just feel the energy, and it was incredible.
Yeah,
you're so excited to get back to the universe. You didn't know what happened. The title kind of told you some stuff of which, it looks like the bad guys might get the upper hand in this, but you weren't. I know we weren't. My family, we weren't ready for what was about to happen in this movie. We just weren't. We weren't ready for the jaw-dropping scenes that we were going to get. So it really kind of blew us away, and it was very, very an exciting time for sure.
And you know what I really like? We're going to start going into the movie now. What I really enjoy about this movie in particular, because compared to the original Star Wars, we went to 2 planets. We went to Tatooine, and we did kind of Yavin. We didn't do much of Yavin. It was a little bit of Yavin, and that was pretty much it. We spent a lot of time on the Death Star, nothing too crazy. Whereas in The Empire Strikes Back, we go to many different places and we really expand this Star Wars universe as a whole. So the first place we end up is Hoth. Now, when I first watched this, when I put this in, when I had it on my VHS tape, I put it in, I was just like, this whole planet is covered in snow. This is so cool. Like, it's just blank white. You can't really see anything. There's blizzards, there's snowstorms, there's, these creatures we're getting used to. We got these wampas, and we really get a sense of, wow, we are not in Tatooine anymore. We are not in Yavin 4 anymore. This is something very, very different. So we're going to begin with Hoth. And let's just talk about Hoth. We'll talk about the battle in just a second, but maybe just the setting up the movie, where the characters are right now. So Luke, he's matured. He has matured, I think, and has become more of a leader. He's scouting out areas. He's just seeing what's around, and the Empire has sent out droids. That's what we see pretty much first thing. That's what it sends out probe droids. And then Luke gets captured by a Wampa. Kind of intriguing. Right, our main protagonist is out. He's done. He's gone. He's been taken away. His body's been dragged away, and we get Han Solo. Now, what I love about this movie is we get a lot of character. We already know a lot about Han Solo, how he was a smuggler, a bit of a chum, a bit of an anti-hero. We get way more character from him this movie, and I love it. So go for it. Characters, start of the movie. What do you guys think? Let's go with Walt first.
Well, The Empire Strikes Back is a tale of 2 movies, in my opinion, when it comes to characters. It's the Han Solo and Luke Skywalker movie. You get a lot of character development with Han Solo in this movie, a ton of it in this movie, a lot more than you had in the first movie. I think the first half of the movie is Han Solo's movie. The second half is Luke's, in my opinion. His character development is what made Han Solo one of my favorite characters of all time from Empire. I liked him in A New Hope. I loved him in Empire. He just takes a step forward as a leading character. He's not a supporting character anymore. He's a lead at this point. I think he's fantastic. And Hoth is one of the best planets of all time. And of course, the reason why they're there is because they're trying to hide from the Empire. That's the point. They're there on a deserted, desolate planet like that in the hopes that the Empire won't think, well, they certainly won't be there. And they find them by chance, but they, like you said, from the probe droid. But I think it's awesome. And Luke is developing. He's becoming that leader. I don't think he's there just yet. He's kind of upping his way in the ranks. He's no longer a lieutenant. Now he's maybe a colonel or something like that. He's not quite the general.
He's a commander because they are looking for him, aren't they? So
and his connection with the Force is growing, which of course we see.
Which we will get to. Kyle, what about the style of the movie for you?
I think it's it's always interesting when you've got great characters in a movie, especially if you're going to make sequels. You take in ensemble movies, you see this a lot. You see a lot of time building towards building the group, and when you do that, you lose character moments, and so that kind of tends to happen in A New Hope. As you bring these characters together, they kind of have to work as a group as opposed to individually, so you don't get as much maybe definition of their character. In Empire Strikes Back, however, they split the group up now into smaller groups, mind you, and Luke goes off on his own. So I do like that you start seeing this at the beginning of this, that we're getting, like you said, more character development for Han Solo, because if we just knew him as the scruffy nerf herder, for example, we would never come to love him for who he truly was as a full character without this movie. So I think in terms of Han Solo was already a popular character, but this movie from the get-go starts really sinking him into the hearts and minds of Star Wars fans everywhere. And in terms of Hoth, I mean, you want to think about George Lucas sitting down at a table when he's writing the script or fleshing things out with everybody that's involved with the film. He said, all right, we went to a desert planet. What's the most extreme thing we can do next? Oh, freezing cold. All right, let's go there. Let's just throw them in the most extreme. What about just a nice beach or something like that? I know we get that in Rogue One. We get Scarif, but I'm like, why can't we just go to something that's nice and have a battle there? But we've got to go from sand to snow, sand to snow, sand. It gets everywhere. Snow gets everywhere too. I might bring all that into it. But I love the element of it. I mean, I think we're going to get into some of this soon. It kind of gives you an opportunity to flesh out the stormtroopers more into more variety than just their traditional look of their armor. Everything, new creatures. I think this was a smart move on the part of George Lucas and the rest of his team to take us from one extreme to the other.
Absolutely. And I love the one-liners at the start of this movie as well. I love Han, when Luke is missing, he goes like, what do you mean nobody knows? Why do you go find out? It's getting dark outside. Like he's changed from like one of those guys who doesn't really care about anybody in A New Hope until he starts caring about Luke, to now he's concerned where Luke is, and he will just find out where he is. He's getting worried about it. He's getting concerned.
And he also risks his life as well, because he stays out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
He stays out there overnight to find him.
Yeah, and there's this internal conflict there because he still has this old self of him that wants to just take his money and run. He's planning to leave at the beginning of the film, but he decides to stay back for the betterment of others, and especially the group, the rebellion, to stay back and help, because he knows how important Luke is. Even if he doesn't believe in all that magic stuff of the Force, he knows how important Luke is to this cause.
Yeah. And speaking of Luke, we can tell his powers have increased. He lifted the lightsaber out of the deep snow. He cuts himself free from dangling upside down like a bat. And then he cuts the Wampa's arm off and makes an escape. And then we meet an old friend. We meet Alec Guinness as Ben Kenobi again. And what I love about these movies is that I fell in love with the character of Ben Kenobi in the original Star Wars. It's so great him kind of cameoing back in these later films and seeing him again and just, it kind of gives Luke some sort of direction. He goes, you need to, go to Yoda, Jedi Master, you need to go to the Dagobah system. And it's like playing into his mind, like you hear Luke like repeating those words, and then he just passes out until Han finds Luke and stuffs him into a tauntaun.
Yeah,
and the innards of the tauntaun looks like tater tots. So I've put everybody off tater tots. So
glowing tater tots at that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for ruining tater tots forever for me.
And that's where we pick up the story. We get Luke and Han reunited in this blizzard, and this is when the movie starts to pick up. We kind of get from really the first scene, the rebels are hiding. And from that point on, we know the rebels at this point are weak, which is kind of ironic because in the last movie, the Empire had the Death Star they seemed all in control and they lost. But now they don't have the Death Star, but it feels like they're way more powerful now. They are way more in control. Vader has a much more control over the Empire. Grand Moff Tarkin is dead, so it's all down to Vader now. It's Vader. It's him. He is in command.
Well,
for now. We will meet somebody later on, but
I think what we get though is if your traditional tough guy gets knocked down one time and realizes, oh, that maybe this fighter I'm fighting isn't as much of a pushover as I think. Maybe I need to take him a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Empire does. Is it's the Empire finally saying, you know what, we took them a little too easy. We need to now flex our muscles a little bit more. And the Emperor in the background, I think, is making sure that that's being done. Because you're right. I mean, Death Star is gone. Grand Moff Tarkin is gone, who was basically number 2 behind the Emperor. Yeah. And I think that's when the Emperor puts his foot down and says, everybody focus. We need to be on target. These guys aren't the pushovers we think.
If you think about it, the Death Star was defeated by a dozen rebel ships.
Well, it was defeated because of what's that word called when you're overconfidence.
Yeah, overconfidence.
That's why it was defeated.
Right. Whereas now the Empire have come. You see, they do a big wide shot of all the ships that are coming to Hoth. You have the Super Star Destroyer there. You have like 5 other Star Destroyers there. They're sending everybody down. They're like, right, we have got these, pesky little rebels. We've got them now. And it's now the time for the rebels to, retreat. They're always on the run, which kind of mimics what's going to happen in the later films in the timeline, not in the prequels. The rebels are on the run. They're trying to escape. So, and that's what I like about this movie. I feel like the rebels, although they had this massive win by defeating the Death Star, they now feel weaker. They feel more, there's a lot more at stake than there was before.
Well, and they're more exposed now because they outed themselves out and their capabilities in A New Hope with the Death Star. And so now, like as you said, that the Emperor knows that this cannot be taken lightly anymore. And so in a way they are weaker because where they could hide in the shadows and strike out and use this element of surprise, now they have to run because to get back that element of surprise, they kind of have to find a place to hide again. And when you have a fleet, an army, a military the size that the Empire, as we see in these opening shots, all those ships and eventually all those vehicles, all-terrain assault tanks, you can really truly see how much the Rebel Alliance was up against. And it wasn't just one little ball in the sky that they had to go destroy. This is an entire galaxy's worth of army.
Right. And the other thing, too, is by defeating the Death Star, what everybody... Not us, but what I always used to tell people is the rebels took a heavy toll. Even though they won that battle, they lost a lot in the process. They lost a lot of ships. They lost a lot of men. They got it done, but it really cost
casualty.
Them a lot.
They lost Porkins. I love Porkins so much.
They lost Biggs. They lost Biggs. They lost... Yeah.
Ross Stapleton, welcome into stream. He says the rebels are always weak. That's what keeps them pushing to fight back. Once they become the power, they have no more cause. The rebels are always the underdog and must fight back. Absolutely, but you've also got to think about the rebels are on Hoth. They pretty much have nothing. They're hiding. They don't have the power to take on a Super Star Destroyer, Star Destroyers, right? Which is why they have to escape. So, even though they have Luke and Han and these kind of generals of the Rebel Alliance, they still don't have what it takes to take down, the Empire. So, the Battle of Hoth, I think, is the perfect way to start a movie. Just throw it in. Action, there we go. This is the Hulk versus Thanos moment. Straight in. Here we go. We got the rebels lining up in the trenches. Just the guy is looking through the binoculars, and they just see these walkers come out of the mist, and I'm like, oh, they are in trouble right now. Rob Fuzz, welcome in, buddy. Partner channel, good to see you, pal. Welcome in. The rebels are in trouble. They've got these big walkers coming in, and then as soon as they see them coming in, all the speeders go out, and it's like it goes on, like it's ready to go. Luke gets in his speeder with his buddy at the back. What's his name? I think it's like Dax or something.
Dax.
Dax.
I think it's Dax.
Yeah. We'll soon know what happened to him. And then an all fight goes out. Let's go. It's been compromised. Their base has been compromised. What do they have to do? They have to evacuate, which is why I love Han Solo in this sequence. Because he's just running around, like, trying to get everybody to come with him. Leia, you're coming with me. Leia's like, no, I'm not coming with you. I'm going to get my own ship. And they try and run to their ship, and then the snow comes down. She's like, no, I'm taking her on the Falcon. Let's go. And C-3PO is like, oh, where am I going? What am I doing? It's great. It's so great. Chewbacca's trying to repair the ship. It's just tense, like action. It's great. You got, Vader coming down to invade the base. You got all these different walkers doing different things. You got one of the walkers trying to take down the shield generator. You got you got the smaller AT-STs as well as the AT-ATs. It's full on Battle of Hoth craziness. Walt, your opinions on the Hoth battle?
Lots of fun. What's really neat is they did it. The perspective was really realistic as to how you could destroy the AT-ATs. You knew that those little speeders couldn't really do any damage to them with with their guns. You had to trip them. You had to put them on the ground. Yep. And to do that with the torpedoes and the wires around their legs was just genius. It was smart to play it that way. I like that about it. And I just thought it was really cool. It was a cool battle. It was a great way to get the movie started. It didn't start slow. We were off and running from the very beginning. And you talk about chemistry between characters. It's the only time you really ever have it, but there's good chemistry. It's fun chemistry between 3PO and Han Solo, too.
Yeah. Which will get more throughout the movie.
Yeah, which really starts in this movie. Obviously, you have the chemistry with Leia and Han, but 3PO and Han have some really fun chemistry in this movie as well.
And this battle comes up as a reference in another movie that I'm sure we all love. Do you remember that really old movie, The Empire Strikes Back? Yeah. With the walking thingies? Jeez, Tony, how old is this kid?
I don't know. I didn't carbon date him.
Oh, great. So if you guys don't know, Captain America Civil War, Spidey's trying to take down Ant-Man. It was great. And I just love, I think everybody who is a Marvel and a Star Wars fan just loved that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole of Marvel. And when they reference that Empire Strikes Back, Battle of Hoth reference, I was just like, that is hilarious. So great. Kyle, Battle of Hoth, what is it for you, buddy?
Well, before I talk about that, I have to get you to do the confused Wookiee did a second ago again. I have to see that where you were just like, where Chewie was confused and running around. You can't get that today. It was a great Wookiee. It was a great Wookiee impression. That's why I did that. But more on the battle, I like to put myself in the perspective of the moviegoer that was actually has seen New Hope and is now going to see The Empire Strikes Back. If you think about it, all the war took place in space in A New Hope. And all of a sudden we're thrust on terrain. And what could the Empire possibly use? I mean, we know that they're powerful. We know that they have all these giant ships. What are they going to do? Fly a ship down into the atmosphere and, just ram the building? And all of a sudden, as you said, you see in the binoculars this giant, you hear the noises, but then you see the giant foot. Yeah. And then it pans up to see the rest of the thing. And you're like, holy cow, do these people build anything economical? Because this thing is giant. And and it's not just one of them. Was it 5 of them total?
Eight, about 5.
And then don't even talk about the AT-STs that were alongside them. The numerous
this actually felt like a war, right? Like this actually felt like right. We got the trenches, we got artillery, we've got people on the front line, and then you have the opposition. You have it's great. And there's actually a really funny scene. I don't know if you guys have seen the Family Guy mock movies.
I've never
So
seen
it's the
Family Guy.
same thing. So the guy's looking through the binoculars. He's just like panning over, and he just sees, hey, look, that one's wearing Crocs. And you just see this AT-AT wearing Crocs. It's hilarious. I just really loved it. But yeah, but it's great having like a battle on the ground, like a full-on battle. Like obviously we've had fights in the Death Star, but it wasn't really a war. It wasn't really, it was just only a couple of people shooting each other. But this was an actual battle, which the Rebels lose.
Yes.
They lose, which is the first time that the Rebels actually lose in Star Wars. It was a big deal. They had to get on the run. Ships did escape, but they were compromised. They lost. And this is where I think Vader becomes even a better villain. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Vader in A New Hope was great, but he was kind of on a leash from Tarkin. He didn't get to do a lot. It was really in Empire where we see Vader as Vader. Okay, and he takes no excuses from his commanders.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of patience.
He has no patience. If you do something wrong, he's gonna kill you. How many commanders does he kill in this movie?
At least three. I think it's 3.
He chokes out 3 of his commanders. Could you imagine like the resume that the guys, the contracts that these commanders have to sign? They'd be like, if I screw up, Vader's got to choke me out and kill me. Like,
I don't think I want to be promoted. I'm fine where I am. Thank you.
It's Vader really becomes the true villain of this movie, and Tarkin's not there getting in the way. We do meet the Emperor a little bit later, but we actually see how ruthless Vader can be, and he takes nothing from anybody. Kyle's vlog, welcome into the stream. Great to see you too. So the Rebels disband. A lot of them, the Rebels escape. Han Solo escapes with Princess Leia and Chewie and C-3PO. They go off somewhere. They're being chased by the Empire. And Luke heads off to Dagobah, where we meet quite perhaps one of the best movie characters in history. Now, everyone's been talking about Yoda, this Jedi Master. I want to get your opinions on this, Walt, when you were there watching it with everybody. This whole Jedi Master, like this is meant to be this all-powerful Jedi. Luke crash lands in this swamp-like planet, which I think is cool. We're getting another new planet, something different. And we meet this little green gremlin who's like, and like, with the lights and the messing around with 3PO and just like banging him with his walking stick. And you're like, right, this guy's obviously probably gonna knows the Jedi Master. You don't actually know that is the Jedi Master Yoda. What was your initial reaction when you saw Yoda on screen for the first time in the cinema?
Well, I remember at the time I'm 10 years old. So when I see him for the first time, I don't even think I don't think he's the actual Jedi Master. No. But I think he is. As a kid, I thought he was just going to be like the helper to the Master who comes out first, kind of sees who you are, checks you out, and would go back and tell the Master.
You to the Master, yeah.
Right, exactly. That's who I thought he was. And he was kind of irritating when you first get him there. Pulling everything out, it's like, get rid of this guy. And then when he really calms down and, he shows who he really is, and you're like, he's pretty cool. And then, you get into the whole training with Luke, and Yoda's one of my favorite characters. He really is. But when you first see him back then, you're thinking, okay, where is the Jedi? Can we get past this guy? Let's get to the real Jedi Master. But when he gets serious, he's such a great character. He really is. I love Yoda. But you don't think that he is. You're like, he can't.
No, you don't. You don't expect this small little, green thing from the movie Gremlins, where you don't feed them after midnight. You don't expect that this little tiny green elf thing is the most powerful Jedi that ever lived. You don't expect it. And, if you've never, I think this kind of spoiler has kind of been ruined. If even if you know nothing about Star Wars, you can still recognize Yoda. You will know if you see that little green guy, his name is Yoda. And I feel like, that's one of the things that I think people won't appreciate if they watch it for the first time. Like, oh, that's obviously Yoda. He's a bumbling idiot. That must be Yoda. But I feel like when you watched it for the first time, you had no idea. You didn't know that was the actual all-powerful Jedi, the most powerful Jedi of all time. So I think it's interesting. Kyle, what do you think?
Well, when I first saw Yoda, I said, when did the Muppets join the universe of Star Wars? I mean, what's going on here? We're suddenly on an ice planet, and all of a sudden here's a Muppet. I don't know what's going on with this guy. But I'll say this. I don't think there's any best way to say it other than he is one of the not just most iconic characters in Star Wars, but in cinema history. How many people have used their graduation quote or some version of that, the quote, "Do or do not, there is no try"? I have seen countless people use that. I was, the one that was even tempted to use it myself. But it's such a great character to go from this somewhat wacky, bumbling, almost just fool to all of a sudden this stoic, poised, and controlled individual. And it's really interesting. I almost wonder why we didn't see that side of Yoda in the prequels or in any other versions, just because I think it's an interesting.
We didn't really see a version of Yoda, any of these versions of Yoda in the prequels, if I'm honest. Like, we didn't get that kind of, whimsical Yoda in the prequels, and we didn't get, the kind of connected to the Force Yoda and want to teach Yoda in the prequels. We just got a boring CGI, nodding of the head Yoda who does barrel rolls on Count Dooku. It just.
But and he did, by the way. That's pretty awesome.
I hate it.
It is awesome. I'm sorry. I think it is.
I thought it was awesome at the time.
I thought it was awesome. But here's my opinion on the whole thing. When he meets Luke for the first time, when he comes out like that, he's being a bumbling, irritating idiot on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay? He's doing it on purpose. He's testing him right away to see what kind of patience he has, to see whether or not he can handle a little bit of adversity, how quickly he gets upset and out of control. I mean, he even says it right there. I can't work with him. He doesn't have patience. And then you hear Obi-Wan say he'll learn patience. So he's testing him from the very beginning on purpose, being irritating to see what's going to upset him and how quickly it's going to upset him. If something as little as that is going to upset him, what do you think Darth Vader is going to do to him? So I think it was a test. I don't think it's really who he is. He just used it as a test, I think.
Let's catch up with the chat. Let's say hi to some people. Dana Jaworski, so good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining from the DVC Lounge in Epcot while it's raining. Just saying that is a great place to wait out the rain. Brian, welcome into stream. Meg from Mickey's Magic, I hope you are recovering after your half marathon. Congratulations again. Avery, welcome in. David Stevens, welcome into stream as well. Tina McNeil, Alex Brunner, welcome in. Jonathan Chung, Lasercat, so many great people here this evening. Thank you so much joining myself, Kyle from Eye to Eye Disney Through Our Eyes, and Walt from Mouse Talk, talking about The Empire Strikes Back and talking about this green little thing called Yoda. Now, I think, Star Wars is full of quotes, but none are more iconic than from Yoda's. You got the do or do not, there is no try, which I think is, is one of those iconic movie quotes of all time. It's like the "I'll be back" or the "Hasta la vista, baby" or something. It is a iconic movie quote, but it's not just, that quote. He's telling Luke, like, that's why you fail, or, concentrate, or he's teaching Luke to be kind of not just powerful and strong, like it's also working with the Force, lifting the rocks, lifting R2, just really being quite just interacting with his inner Force himself.
I have confidence in your abilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
confidence in
what you're saying. Don't try, do it.
And what I find really interesting about this whole time on Dagobah is Luke has nobody except R2. And R2, although he doesn't have much to do in this movie at the moment, he kind of is Luke's buddy. Like that's what he's there. He's literally his best friend. He talks to him in the X-wing. He's like, are we not joining the rebellion? No, we're going to go off to the Dagobah system. And R2 is like, no. Like, and R2 is, you know, just kind of, you could almost sense he's having doubts about who this Yoda guy is. Like he's doing the whole, you know, the frowning R2 sound, you know, the thing, like the lowering of the pitch. You know, I think R2, you don't really get a lot out of him, but you can sense that he is Luke's buddy in this part of the movie. Like Luke doesn't have anybody else apart from R2. So
yeah,
I think it's great.
And kudos goes to Mark Hamill for, you know, acting with a prop essentially, because I'm sure all those sounds weren't in there during the acting part of it where they were filming this. And so he's got to, you know, someone's given him a cue, I'm sure, of this is what this is going to sound like. And he's got to figure out what to say or how to react to something that may not be there in its fullness. So kudos goes to Mark for, you know, like I said, acting with a prop essentially at that point, because I know I couldn't do that. I'd be like, really, you want me to talk to this trash can over here? I mean, why? But I mean, it is great to see their dynamic build over time. And that's where I think people, even though he doesn't have much to do, as you said, they start to fall in love with R2.
Absolutely. Walt?
Oh, I love R2's one of my favorite characters. I love his character. I think he's fantastic. You know, they always say 3PO and R2-D2 are you know, the partners in crime, but I always associate them with Luke. And I think they did that really well in the newer movies with The Force Awakens. If you notice, R2 was not awake and wasn't around until they found Luke, and then he woke up. And I think that they have that connection. They have that bond. I agree. I think he was all they had. And that Luke was all R2 had.
Yeah.
So I love their dynamic together.
What's really funny, it's weird that you said it, because I remember last year I picked up a Star Wars mystery pin box from The Last Jedi, and I got Luke and R2, and it's kind of like a weird, like, I don't know what it's trying to tell me, but it's weird picking out. I got Luke and then I got R2. I'm just like, hey, like, these two are like, they're like brothers pretty much. I know it's weird, but they have such a connection. Even from A New Hope. And Russ Stapleton says, I also think Yoda did have a mischievous side. Even in the new movies, he has that silly side to help lighten the mood for Luke and teach him that the Force is in control and he doesn't have to worry. And that's what I think, you know, we'll obviously talk about The Last Jedi in a couple of months, but I think Yoda not just being that all-powerful Jedi, I think it was good that George Lucas directed him in a way that he was kind of whimsical and kind of a bit silly, because who would want to go all the way to this really dull, dreary planet to meet a dull, dreary person? Like, it's just
true.
They needed some sort of lively element about it, and it was perfect. We'll get on to Han Solo in a bit, but I want to bring up the cave. This is probably the most metaphorical imagery scene, I think, in the whole of Star Wars. I think it really makes you think out the box about this scene, because it is, if you watch this movie for the first time, this cave scene is confusing. So Yoda sends Luke into this cave, and Luke is wandering through the cave, and he comes across Darth Vader. Like, how can Darth Vader be in this cave? Like, what is going on? How does he know that, you know, Luke is there out of anywhere in the galaxy? What is going on? Darth Vader is there. He gets out his lightsaber. Luke quickly gets his lightsaber out, and they have like two little hits, and then Luke cuts off Vader's head. And you see Vader's head on the floor. It kind of blows up, and you see Luke's head inside Vader's helmet. And you're like, what is going on? Like, this is just bizarre. Like, this really makes you think what is going to happen, which obviously will come clear later in the movie. But, you know, we get to see this interaction with Vader, and it really darkens the movie. It really does make, like Russ just said, it scared me as a kid. For me, it really made me think a lot about what was going to happen. It really brought the tone down and dark and gritty, and it was just phenomenal. Like it makes you kind of don't understand what's going on when you're a kid. When you rewatch it and you understand it and you really think about this cave scene, you're like, oh, that is real dark stuff right here. Walt, what do you think about this whole cave scene?
Well, like you said, as a kid, you don't really know what's going on. I didn't really understand the part of what they were trying to tell me. And even to this day, I mean, you can take it as two different ways. You can take it as what, of course, the big reveal is, or you can take it as his way of saying that if you don't control your fear and your anger, that ultimately that's who you're going to become. And I think that's where we ultimately get in the third movie. If you notice, when we get to Return of the Jedi, there's two different ways you could take that. I always took it as if he doesn't control his fear turns to hate. Hate leads you to the dark side. That if you're not in control, you're going to become the exact guy you're trying to beat. That's how I took it.
It kind of reminds you of that scene in The Dark Knight where Harvey Dent says, you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of what it was to me is you always want to beat what you despise, but you also don't want to become it.
Exactly.
And that's how I took it was be careful because you could become the exact same thing you're trying to defeat. So
yeah. And Brian,
is that what it was meant? I don't know.
We don't know. Brian said it expanded the universe, explained the cave scene. So that's the thing, obviously there's been a load of books and explanation about, this whole scene. But if I'm honest, the people who are going to see Star Wars, a lot of them, unless you are real diehard Star Wars fans, aren't really going to dive into the expanded universe. I haven't dived into the expanded universe. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I love the Star Wars movies, the TV shows, but I haven't really gone into the books. But as a moviegoer at the time, you're trying to figure out what is going on and what kind of symbolizes later on in the movies. But like Brian said, Luke had to kill his evil clone, which again, it's a bit bizarre. Like I don't quite get that. It wasn't really explained very well. Kyle, what do you think about this whole cave scene?
Well, you talked about it being a very dark tone. This entire movie has been dark up to this point, minus a few chuckling moments from Yoda and R2 here. I mean, you've got a Wampa arm being severed. You've got now again ruined forever for me. Tater tot innards coming out of a tauntaun. You've got
Leia kissing Luke.
I've tried to block it out, Dan. So thank you again. So
I don't have a sister, so it's fine.
Tater tots are ruined. Repressed memories of Luke and Leia kissing are back. And then you've got the beheading of Luke, of evil Luke by himself.
Yeah.
And it's just, and he's failed this test that Yoda has clearly, whether Yoda provided that hallucination or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He set him up for a test and he's failed him. And so we've been building up to this point where Luke is the new hope. And then all of a sudden he's faced with this test, whether it's the real Darth Vader or not, and he fails. But I think as dark as that is, I think it's a great lesson that we don't hear fulfilled. And if I may jump way forward until The Last Jedi, failure is the greatest teacher. And I think you see that come full circle now. So now that scene has much more prominence for me other than just this weird thing that happens in the swamp somewhere. Again, with the extreme locations, I already said it, the ice, the sand, now we're going to go to a swamp. Bring me the beach. Okay, come on.
Bring me the beach. Very quickly, Johns, welcome into the stream, buddy. So good to see. Congratulations on the live stream yesterday. I'm so it was just absolutely fantastic. And if you missed it yesterday, guys, you please, Richard, if you still have the stream on your channel, please go check out Johns' first ever live stream of Phantasmic live on his channel right now. And also we did a celebration. We had a party after his live stream on my channel as well, and we had loads of special guests joining us to celebrate Johns' first live stream. Corey from Corey Meets World, so good to see you too, pal. Hope you're doing well, my friend, and so good to have you in the chat as well. So yeah, it is, and again, this is another loss, and a good guy losing away, because this whole movie has been about the protagonists losing, which I think is fantastic. It's been running throughout the whole film. let's look at our other protagonist. Han Solo's on the run. Get Smuggler's Run. He, that was a Walt joke.
Been there, done that.
So Han Solo is on the run from the Empire. The Empire want to chase him down. They're chasing. You got these like 3 Star Destroyers behind him. He's like diving and dipping. And one of my favorite scenes in the whole of Star Wars is the asteroid scene.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I cannot tell you, well, when we did the Attack of the Clones review, I ranted so much about that asteroid scene with Obi-Wan and Jango Fett because they just drove like a sunny afternoon through a field. We get tense action here in the asteroid field. We've got C-3PO going, Sir, the odds of surviving an asteroid field is 200,000 billion to 1. And then Han Solo was like, never tell me the odds. Like you get that sense of like, urgency, you know. Leia's like, I can't believe you're driving into an asteroid field. And then like the Empire's just like, we're gonna go straight in, like we're going for him. It's full on tense. We get this kind of, you know, chase with the Millennium Falcon and TIE fighters behind him. You know, they're going through tight crevices in these bigger asteroids. It's phenomenal. We get that sort of action after being, you know, in Dagobah, you know, going through all this, you know, like teaching and lots. It's a little bit slow, and now we get bam. It's, you know, full on action, and Han Solo go into what we think is a cave. So there's 2 cave scenes in this middle part of the movie, as we think, and this kind of gives us a little bit of a breather. It actually kind of develops the characters a little bit more. It kind of gives us a little bit of that romance between Han and Leia. We get a little bit of that cheeky, you know, getting to know each other. Han is helping her with the thingy-majiggy. I can't remember what it's called. And C-3PO is so third-wheeling this whole thing. He's just like, oh, hello, and they're like snogging and whatever. It's full on, like, we do get some sort of character development now from these characters, and it's fantastic. It's really, really great. And we get Vader going all out. Like, he wants Han Solo, and he wants his head on a platter. That's what he wants. It's great. So what do you guys think about this whole middle part of the movie with Han? I'm gonna go with Walt first.
Well, it's awesome. It's one of the better parts of the movie. The asteroid field is fantastic. Just like you said, you can feel the intense nature of the characters too. They're scared. I mean, they're going into an asteroid field. I mean, even Princess Leia, she even says to him, she's like, I know I said I wanted to be there when you failed. I take that back. It's true because
she's involved now. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in 3PO, every time an asteroid gets really close, he's screaming and going like this. And you're right. And that's the difference. That's where acting and directing makes such a huge difference. Because, like you said, in the prequels, they're just, yeah, I can go. Yeah, there's one. I got that. It's like, really? Aren't you scared? Of course you're scared. But
what I love is the music really emphasizes
like we're ruining this music for everybody right now.
Right,
exactly.
And you know, then you see a couple of the TIE fighters that get destroyed because one small mistake, and it's over. With a little luck involved as well, but it also shows you just how good of a pilot Han Solo really is as well, how incredibly good he is. And then, of course, you have the cave scene. And that was a neat little addition that meant nothing to the movie, but it was pretty cool. Yeah. I love that middle part of the movie. I think it's great.
Kyle?
When you think about the asteroid...
Oh, we're echoing a little bit.
Is it?
Oh, step up.
We got a bit of echoing going on.
I think we're good now. The asteroid chase scene. It is Star Wars. That is what most people think of. They think of the music, as you said. Every time I hear that ramp up, I get super excited. Like, okay, I'm in Star Wars mode now. So that's why they made Smuggler's Run a ride at Galaxy's Edge, is because they know people associate that thrill of weaving through things, the Millennium Falcon, as Star Wars. That whether that music's playing or not. I mean, this is my favorite scene in the entirety of The Empire Strikes Back, because, and I know it's a series of scenes broken down across several minutes, but whether it's watching the Star Destroyers trying to make it through the asteroid field, the TIE fighters exploding in there, Han weaving through things, going down in the cave. There's just so much going on here. And then all of a sudden, we're just going to take a breather. And, Leia just got done kissing her brother. Now she's going to start kissing Han Solo too. So, there's that going on as well. It's like, we're going from cave scene to cave. There's just, it's a lot. I think it's a beautifully crafted part of the movie, what could have been a very slow and dull part of the movie, and I think they did a great job there with that. And the one thing I always equate to with flying through the asteroids is and not so much Han and Leia, but CP3O and Han as a husband and wife who's ever driving trying to side seat drive. And do you know how many times I've looked at Jessica when I'm driving and said, "Never tell me the odds," and then I just keep going. He's told me nothing too. So that's like my favorite line is,
"We've only got 3 minutes to get to my doctor's appointment. Never tell me the odds."
You got to make our flight in 5 minutes. You're 10 minutes away. Don't tell me the odds. We're going to make it. But yeah, it's just a great time period in this movie that I think we love the Battle of Hoth. We're going to get to the end in a little bit. This is great moments abound in this movie, but this one, to me, this is Star Wars. This is what everybody thinks about and imagines.
And then we meet not the big bad guy, but the big master of puppets bad guy of who's pulling all the strings, the Emperor. In a hologram, we finally see who Vader's master is. We finally get Ian McDiarmid for the first time as the Emperor, and we finally understand what Vader's role is, and that is he predicts Skywalker. He predicts, that we need to turn him to the dark side. They would be unstoppable if they turned him to the dark side, and if it doesn't, they will fail. And it's really dark stuff now. We really get to see who this big bad guy is. It's kind of, it really picks up because now who Vader, who can just, it's not Vader who's the big bad guy. Vader is only being manipulated. So very, very interesting. So the Millennium Falcon's in a cave, and this one tiny scene always used to scare me.
Yes.
So Leia is just sitting down.
The Minox.
She's just chilling. She hears something. She looks out of the window, and then, wah! And I'm just like, what the hell is going on
right now?
I was just like, what is this thing? It scared it scared me so much. And then like something's outside. Where? Outside the ship. And then Han and Chewie go outside, and they're like, it feels weird. It feels like something. It feels squishy, and everything starts going on. And then we finally realize that the Millennium Falcon is in the mouth of a creature. Just genius. It's just funny that they went creative, and so instead of being in a cave, they had to leave because they were going to get swallowed by this monster. And then obviously the Empire find them, and then they're trying to find a place to go. They're trying to find a safe haven, and that's where we hear the name Lando. And we are going to head there. So Bespin, Cloud City, Lando. So Millennium Falcon escapes, but they're being tracked by Boba Fett. And that's where it starts to get interesting, because now there's nowhere for them to hide because they've got Boba Fett chasing them without knowing. And I think it's great.
And if you notice, this is the one thing about this movie. You talk about introduction of characters. Yeah. Empire has introduced us Yoda, Boba Fett, and Lando Calrissian, all of which we get for the first time in this movie.
Yeah.
3, even though Boba, unfortunately...
Don't do it. You're going to make me cry.
That's 3 major characters that we get in this movie moving forward. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle, what do you think about this setup to the third act?
I want to say things about Boba Fett because there's so much more there that we didn't get. I feel like with Boba, whether it's in this movie or the next one, but it's almost. I think that Boba not having so much built with him almost made him more popular. It's because he's so intriguing. This armor that he wears that looks eerily similar in the most rudimentary fashion to the Stormtrooper armor, and where we see that eventually evolves from in the prequels. It's like, what is this guy's story? We don't see his face. I'm also intrigued in the other bounty hunters that are there. Let's see if I can remember their names: Zuckuss and Forlum, IG-88, Bosk, and Dengar. That should be all of them there. One of the old canon stuff from the books, one of my favorite books, is the one where they took the stories of each of those bounty hunters at that moment where they're on the Star Destroyer with Darth Vader and he's sending them all out to go find Han Solo, is finding out what their stories went to. I hate that that's not canon anymore because I love that book. I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but that was one of my favorite things there. But the whole weaving Boba into this and eventually heading to Cloud City, we finally do get a nice, safe-looking place. I've been ranting about ice places and sand places and swamp places. We go to this nice, seemingly calm. It's like the places that seem harsh are the safer places, and then this nice little cloudy place. It's just like you just don't know.
It's almost too perfect, isn't it? It's almost
exactly right.
Right, and you got Vader going up to Boba Fett, and he's pretty much singling him out and saying no desegregation or something like that. He's like really pointing him out, saying, "You do not go against what I want you to do. You find the Millennium Falcon, report it back to me. You don't do anything until I arrive, pretty much." And he literally just stops at Boba Fett and just tells him directly, that Boba Fett is a serious big deal. Otherwise, Vader wouldn't point him out, So we do get a bit of character from that.
And Boba Fett also kind of talks back to Darth Vader a little bit later in the movie when he says,
"Yeah,
he means a lot to me. There's a lot of money involved here with this guy."
Because we'll soon get to know why
we'll compensate.
Later on.
I mean, he could have easily just disregarded him, saying, "Tough, I don't care about you," but he didn't. I mean, he back-talked Vader, so he's definitely got some clout.
Brian says, could you imagine if Admiral Thrawn had made his appearance? Now, I've only seen Admiral Thrawn in, I think it's Rebels. He's in Rebels. He's a phenomenal character, but I'm sure he's a lot more detailed in the books. But Admiral Thrawn was kind of like second in command, third in command, or something like that of the whole Empire. But it's kind of like using these bounty hunters. It was kind of great way for the Empire to kind of track down Han Solo, because obviously they're trying to find the rebellion, but they also want to kill, Leia, Han, Chewie, get rid of these big commanders of the rebels. So we head to Cloud City. They meet up with this suave guy called Lando. And what I like straight up about Lando is that he's all serious. He's comes up, it's just he's like, "What did you do to my ship? You have some nerve coming here." Mm-hmm. And then they just break out into a hug, and it's kind of this all good, it's kind of cool. And then one of my favorite lines is like, "How's it going, Chewbacca? Still hanging out with this loser?" And I'm just like, "It's great." And he's like, "Hello, what have we here?" And I'm just like, "Oh, he's being that suave guy." Over to Leia. It's great. C-3PO is trying to "Hello, sir," and Lando's just ignoring him. It's great. Hey, our Disney Adventures, welcome into the stream. So good to see you. So we get Lando. We're introduced to Lando. We'll just skip a little bit, and actually, let's just talk about your first impressions of Lando. Let's go, Walt, first.
I didn't like him from the beginning.
Really?
Knew something was up. Just could tell.
We can't be friends
anymore. I didn't. I can remember sitting there saying,
"Something's not right.
Something's not right." I didn't know if he was going to maybe call the Empire and have them come. What actually does happen, I didn't. I'm 10. I wasn't really thinking. But I didn't like him. He seemed sneaky. And of course, it plays out that way as well. But yeah, I didn't seem to like him very much at all at first. But he becomes such a great. I love him now. Don't get me wrong. But at the time, I didn't trust him. I thought he was sneaky.
Well, that's the whole thing about trust with Han and Lando. You kind of just you're put into Han's shoes, whether you can actually trust him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they did that brilliantly because you don't kind of trust him. It does feel kind of weird that he just turns up there. He's just there. Everything seems to be all peachy. Everything seems to be kind of better than ever. The Empire has no involvement with Cloud City at all. That's a little strange. So I think you have a point there that how Lando doesn't trust him, so we don't trust him.
Well, and Han even says, I think Leia asked him, so you trust him? He was like, of course I don't trust him. He is my friend after all, and a friend of Han is definitely not trustworthy from what we know about Han's past.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, I'll admit I was sunk hook, line, and sinker into Lando and his persona as soon as he broke that kind of stoic right at the beginning there where he's trying to give Han and Chewie the business at the beginning. But I hook, line, and sinker, I love Lando from the get-go. So when he is revealed, and you could see it coming, I could see it building towards the betrayal. But, man, I love me some Lando Calrissian. And Billy D. Williams, man, you want to talk about a guy that can just smooth talk his way into anywhere? Gosh.
He rocks. Oh, he's awesome. Absolutely awesome. But you knew it. The minute they're walking there and he goes, I just secured a deal that'll keep the Empire out of here.
Yep.
You knew it. Right then and there, you knew that was it.
And you know what? You know who played a really important factor? And it was surprisingly C-3PO. He got taken out. And you just see his decapitated head on this, this conveyor belt. And he's just like, Stormtroopers here? And then, a lot of people, I think, quite miss that kind of key bit because one of my favorite scenes that makes everybody just mouth drop is, they made that deal. They open the doors and you just see Vader stand up.
Sitting
and and you're like, oh, shoot. Whoa. And he's just Han's just whipping out his buzz, shooting him. Vader's blocking it with his hand and he force grabs it. And then he just says, it will be our honor if you would join us. And I'm like, Boba Fett comes into the background, Stormtroopers, and then you get that betrayal from Lando. And I'm like, oh, it just went down.
Yeah, he says, I get it. I understand. The deal that Vader basically said to him, you're going to help me or we're going to blow your Cloud City out of the sky.
Yeah.
And basically that's what it was. You talk about one-liners in movies, I'm going to make you an offer that you can't refuse. Basically, that's what Vader did. He said, I'm sorry, they arrived just before you. End of story.
Just
what are you gonna do?
What can you do? So they get captured. So Kyle, what do you think about this whole betrayal scene?
Well, I think one thing that I noticed from this is that moment, the reveal of Darth Vader sitting there, and the door opens up, and Han realizes who's in front of him. It tells a lot about where Han is kind of grown from A New Hope, because I think Han in A New Hope, at least the majority of it, he sees Darth Vader stand up in front of him, he runs the other way. Instead, his first instinct is to be the hero and to take that shot, knowing he probably didn't know exactly what Vader was capable of with the Force and all that, because again, he doesn't believe in all this mystical stuff, but he takes the shot, and that is the moment where Han shot first, and that's the only moment where Han shot first. There, I have opened up that box tonight, even though this is not A New Hope.
But here's the thing, who wouldn't? This is the big bad guy of the Empire. This is the highest, what they know of, the highest ranking guy of the Empire. Of course I would want to take him down. This is my opportunity.
I see Darth Vader right there. I said, I'm gone. I'm out of here. And I know that reveals a lot about me, but I'm saying,
come on, Leia. General of the Rebel Alliance, if you have that chance, he went for it. Yeah. And Vader could have easily just snapped his neck like that. If you talk about how easily he took out all of his commanders, all he had to do was this tiny little choke, and Han Solo would have been done. So obviously, he wants to lure Luke into this trap.
Right. Yeah, there's a reason why he doesn't.
Yeah.
Right.
He has an end game.
so let's jump back to Luke, and we get these. Luke gets a vision of, his friends in the clouds suffering, whatever, and he decides to leave. And Yoda was like, "No, you got to finish your training," which I think is really important because it shows that Luke is not ready. He is not ready to take on Vader. But he said, "No, I'm not having it." He needs to go and save his friends. And this kind of starts with the whole cave scene. Like, this is, something that's going to affect him. He didn't finish his training. He's not ready. And again, with this whole theme of The Empire Strikes Back and the protagonist losing, this could be a big reason why he loses, because he isn't ready. He should have maybe waited, finished his training. And obviously he does finish that training in Return of the Jedi. So he leaves. And in the meantime, it's not good for Han Solo. He gets tortured. His friends betrayed him. And he is the test dummy of carbonite. Because obviously Vader wants Luke in carbonite. So why don't we have a test dummy? They're not going to test it on animals. They're going to test it on Han Solo. Which brings back in Boba Fett. And how that means a lot to him, because they were going to sell Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt. Because if you remember from A New Hope, Han still owes Jabba money.
Sure.
So obviously Boba Fett knew about this because he was at that meeting in the special edition of A New Hope. And he's going to bring back Han to Jabba. And stuff's going to go down only if, he survives. So we get that iconic line from Leia and Han, "I love you. I know." Like, that is Star Wars right there. That is, and that was, I think, Harrison Ford's own choice. Like, that wasn't actually in the script.
Oh, did he ad-lib that?
I think he ad-libbed that.
Completely ad-lib.
Because I think it's not really a Han Solo thing to say if he said, "Oh, I love you too." Kissy kiss face.
It wouldn't be.
Growth from Han. I can't see that coming out of Han's mouth.
No.
But you do in the next movie.
That's true. But it's a turn of events.
Yeah,
exactly. But it's just funny how they use that. I'm kind of glad they did.
Yes.
And then he gets put into carbonite. So another loss, and we get Chewbacca carrying C-3PO. Leia is crying, everyone's crying, and Vader goes back on Lando's promise, because I think Vader altered the deal. So I think that's really
Pray
cool
that he
as well.
doesn't alter it again.
Yeah, so what about this whole setup to Luke's, the trap? So what about this whole Han Solo carbonite thing? What do you think, Walt?
Smart. I mean, obviously you want to lure him in, so you want to have everybody there. You don't want them all dead, and then he's got no reason to show up.
Yep.
So they're bait is what they are. They're bait to lure him in, and he takes the bait easily. And not that you didn't think he wasn't gonna. Who wouldn't have? I mean, if it's your best friends and people that are family to you and you love them, you're going to do your best to try to prepare and to save them if you can. So he took the bait and he came in, and it's the right move.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely the right move, for sure.
So
Got you,
Kyle, what about you?
Again, this is... I don't know. I've already revealed the lack of character that I have running from Darth Vader when I have a chance to take him down. I think in the moment I would have listened to Yoda, and if I knew there was a higher calling and purpose to not rush off and not complete my training. Not that I was intentionally trying to sacrifice my friends, but I would like to think that I would understand after just seeing this crazy Muppet walking around, joking around, when he all of a sudden turns to this great Jedi Master, and he's revealed all these other things to me, and he tells me, "You need to stay, or else this is going to happen."
Right.
I would like to think that I would have stayed, but as a human, as my friends, it is absolutely the right choice to go run off and save there. And again, he learns through failure eventually.
Mm-hmm.
We see him fail again in this. I mean, this is basically a movie of failures, whether it's for the Rebel Alliance or it's for Luke himself. I mean, talk about depressing, whether it's arms getting lopped off, heads getting taken off, or hands getting taken off, Han's getting taken away. You know, it's a very sad and depressing movie if you really look at everything that actually goes on in this, but still such a good movie.
Well, what it does, the one thing it does more than anything else is, and thank you everybody for your patience. We're trying to take care of a few trolls that are coming.
Can we have moderators help out, please?
Yes, mods. Where are our mods? If you're in here, please help us. I agree with you, but it really is the quintessential understanding of the title of the movie, The Empire Strikes Back. They really have the upper hand throughout this movie. At every turn, they are winning every small and big battle for sure. So I agree with you 100%. It is definitely dark, especially if you're a Rebel fan, and you know, that's why we get to where we get when it comes to the final battle scene with Luke and Vader. Dan, did you want to touch on that?
Sorry, I completely missed that. I'm just trying to sort everything out. Sorry.
Understood.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, just talking about basically how the entire movie was very much dark in a lot of ways, and you know, the bad guys are winning on every front. So
yeah, it's just been a recurring theme, and we get that the whole time, and you know, this is the theme, and we thought things would progressively get better, but it doesn't. That's the whole point. Like, this is the darkest time. This kind of lives up to the name Empire Strikes Back. So so we get Han, you know, in Carbonite. It's a really dark tone. Even though we're in the Cloud City, it's quite light. Things are going to get a lot worse. So Luke finally ends up in Cloud City, and you know he's not ready. You know he's not ready because you could just tell. He looks a bit nervous. He's carrying around his blaster, not his lightsaber. He's being a bit precautious. He sees Boba Fett push you know, Han and Carbonite, and Leia just broke through and said, like, it's a trap, and he doesn't, you know, take those words into consideration. It's a tense moment. It's a real tense moment, and then this is the final battle. You know, Vader's like, he's standing there, eerie. He's got the lightsaber. He's saying, "You're not a Jedi yet." He's not ready. We know it's about to go down. We know it's about to go down.
Yep. But what I like about the final battle scene is Luke holds his own to an extent. You know, he holds his own. He does trick him. He does basically not push him, but he does fall into the Carbonite, and it looks like he goes all too easy, and it looks like he had him, and he gets out, and so he holds his own for the most part. But Vader does what Vader has to do to make sure he wins, to the point that he kind of cheats.
Yeah, talking about cheat.
Yeah, using the Force to throw things at him to distract him as well. He kind of cheats a little bit to make sure that he gets the upper hand. So, but again, it shows you just how ruthless and to what extent he will go to make sure he ultimately wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle, what do you think?
It's I personally felt like this fight scene drug out a little bit more than it needed to. However, the payoff at the end of it is worth in what I feel like is it dragging out a little bit there. And in terms of Luke holding his own, I'm not so sure it's him holding his own as much as trying to just keep Darth Vader at bay. He really doesn't hold his own until he starts kind of being egged on a little bit by Darth Vader. And in some ways, releasing his dark side. So the first, we see that a lot in Return of the Jedi. We start seeing the beginnings of that and what Yoda was so scared about of him going to face Vader. You're not ready for this. You're not ready to control your anger, your hate. And it makes you wonder, did Yoda know what was going to be revealed to Luke during this battle?
Oh, yeah, he knew.
And you talk about throwing stuff at Luke. I don't want to jump ahead here, but the ultimate cheat move, what you say to him in the midst of this fight when he's at his lowest point. Come on. I mean, how low can you get, Darth Vader? Don't drop this bomb on Luke at this moment when you've already got him pinned to a pole about to fall to his death.
Right. But remember, the ultimate end game, and Dan, I'm sorry, I got to jump in here. The ultimate end game for the Emperor is to not kill Luke. No. He wants Luke on his side.
Yep.
So what's the best way to do that?
plant the seed of anger.
To plant the seed of who I look. Do you know who I really am?
Yeah.
I'm. Well, do we
He's
even want to say?
turning father against son. That's
Right.
There it
that's
is.
the key.
But what he's trying to do is Darth Vader is trying to say to him, "Look, I'm your dad. I know I haven't told you, but I am. I'm your father." And then what he's hoping for is he's hoping, Dad.
It's hard.
Dad.
It's hard to hug your dad when you only have one hand.
Right, but he also could have killed him. He could have took him out. But
he gave, the offer. He was like, "Join me, and together we rule the galaxy, father and son."
He gave him the offer.
without his hand. Luke is defeated. Our main protagonist is defeated. Everyone has been defeated in this movie. He is literally. There's nowhere else to go for him. Like, he is done. And he's just standing there. He doesn't believe it. He believes Ben Kenobi, his kind of like his other father, like he's the one who guided him, helped him. Now he believes that, maybe Ben Kenobi was lying. How can Ben Kenobi lie about, Vader being his father? It was this big, shocking moment. Everybody doesn't believe it. And one of the things that people get wrong, especially non-Star Wars fans, everyone goes, "Luke, I am your father." It's not Luke, I am your father. It's no, I am your father.
Right. I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
And we get Luke. This is where it gets interesting. We get Luke fall to his death. He is willing. He is willing to commit suicide. That's the thing. He was like, "Right, I can't believe this anymore. There's no point me living now. My father is he's like the Voldemort of everything. I'm gonna fall to my death," and he willingly commits suicide, which is why I don't get the special editions added a screaming, because Luke wanted to die. He wanted to give himself up. He wanted to. It wasn't his idea of being saved by these tubes and stuff. It was just a coincidence. He literally gave his life up. And it was only then when he started connecting to the Force to Leia, he finally gets that connection with Leia. Maybe there's something else between, Luke and Leia. But yeah, it's kind of like it's crazy. He's like, I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna just fall to my death. Crazy.
That's basically, that's your movie at that point. At the end, they come, they get him, they take him away. I do like the fact, and we didn't touch on it, but it was really, really important that we actually saw a quick redemption of Lando Calrissian, and that he really wasn't a bad guy. He wanted to help them. His hands were tied. But when he got the opportunity to help them, he did help them. He did.
Even though he did have to convince Chewbacca, someone who used to know Leia, who's pretty much the general of the Rebel Alliance. So, it's welcome in Mama Mouse from Myers and the Mouse, as well as the Disney Nerd Herders. Welcome into the stream. It all escalated, didn't it? It all escalated. So Luke survives his long fall with only one hand. He loses his hand, loses his lightsaber, loses everything. And we kind of don't know how Maz gets his lightsaber in episode 7, but because obviously this is where Luke last holds his lightsaber before he constructs his new one. So again, very interesting. But yeah, we get Luke and Leia's connection. We get some sort of, not a romance way in any way. It's just more of, this gives us, again, a cliffhanger. Right. Why can Luke and Leia hear each other through the Force? Right. Why is that? And then obviously there's that last kind of escape with, the connection with Vader and Luke trying to escape while Luke is on his deathbed. Not deathbed, like injury bed.
Right.
And they get to the medical frigate, and he gets a new electronic hand. And then there's the cliffhanger.
Yep.
But there's. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just going to say there's several cliffhangers that you have, and that's what made the movie so great.
Yep.
What's going to happen with Han? Are they going to be able to save him? Who is this other? Because remember, Yoda says Kenobi says, "This boy is our last hope," and Yoda says, "No, there is another."
There's another.
Well, you don't know that it's Leia yet. Okay, they
No.
have a connection, but that could just be through the Force. You don't know that yet. So there's the cliffhanger. Who's the other? And then you have the cliffhanger of, is Luke going to turn bad? Because like you said, when he's leaving and escaping, Vader goes, Luke, and he goes, Father. And then he goes, Ben, why didn't you tell me? As if he's mad. And you're thinking, is he going to turn? And that's another cliffhanger.
Yep.
There's
And
so
all-
many.
Yeah,
So many.
and just you just don't know what's going to happen next, and I think that's what's great. You have no idea with these cliffhangers what each role is going to happen. What is, we're going to obviously have the Emperor in the next movie. We're going to have, Vader in a really powerful role in the next movie. Luke,
And then we had to wait 3 years again.
which we will get to.
You're not bitter at all.
No. So Kyle, what do you think of the ending of this movie?
Well, like you said, there's a lot to take away with all the cliffhangers there, whereas A New Hope is a complete movie in some sense, where the only real cliffhanger is Vader's tie spinning off into space. This one has every different angle of like, what about this? What about that? One thing that I notice myself, but also as we're talking about it here, is probably when I'm first watching that connection between Luke and Leia, it's not uncommon for people to think, well, Luke is just using his powers to connect to Leia. They're not thinking it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And until you see Vader and Luke connect, realizing they're both force sensitive, maybe that's the moment where people are like, okay, is Leia force sensitive too? That's where people start thinking that. And then, of course, in a later movie, we find out the connection, and it goes on from there. But in terms of an ending, after a movie of just losing arms and losing heads and losing heroes, and you
Physical,
lose.
it's almost just like there's almost that, literally things of damaging, and then also mentally as well, things happening in the cave,
Yes.
it makes you think as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes The Empire Strikes Back so good, is because not only does it make you watch everything that's happening to the characters, it also makes you think.
Yes.
And this is the movie, there's probably the only movie in the whole of the Star Wars saga where the rebels, where the good guys get beaten and beaten and beaten till there's nothing left. I understand in The Last Jedi that, at the end of that movie, it's not looking too good, but there was some upside to, the storyline. Whereas in this movie, it was just defeat after defeat, mentally, physically. Everyone is just in so many different places, and there's so many cliffhangers. And that's why I think people love The Empire Strikes Back. Not only did it exceed A New Hope, which could be considered one of the most revolutionary films of all time, it exceeded that movie. It is probably one of the most perfect films that has been put together in film. Whether you're a sci-fi fan, non-sci-fi fan, there's so much depth here. We've got romance, we've got action, we've got some dark horror tones in the cave scenes. We've got some jump scares with the little things. We've got so much stuff here that it makes a whole rounded movie experience. And The Empire Strikes Back is, in my opinion, my favorite Star Wars movie out of the lot. So we're going to go through our lists so we've talked about 1 through 5 now. So Walt and I will talk about where we've put our movies so far that we talked about on our list. Kyle, I want you, if you can, to give me your list of Star Wars movies from worst to best, if you can. I'll give you a minute. I'll let Walt go first. There's no point me asking, where is The Empire Strikes Back compared to the rest of your movies? How is your list looking, your ranking looking at the moment?
Well, Empire Strikes Back's number 1.
Yep.
By a narrow margin over A New Hope.
Yep.
Which we talked about last month, is number 2 for me. But it's Empire Strikes Back. It just has everything. Like you said, it has everything. It has betrayal, it has love, it has action, it has adventure, it has comedy, it has scary moments, it has intense moments, it has shock value moments, it has cliffhangers, it has character development, it has great music. we get introduced to 3 extremely important characters for the first time. The movie has everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why, to me, it's number 1. It's the one that stands the test of time more than any other. I know A New Hope started everything off, but this movie really kickstarts it into becoming the phenomenon that it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I'm the same. Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, is number 1 on my list, followed by A New Hope at number 2. And then I have a middle patch, which we haven't talked about yet. But from top to bottom, so from bottom to top, I've got Attack of the Clones as my lowest, then Phantom Menace, then Solo, then Rogue One, then Episode 3, and then we've got a couple in between, and then my second favorite is A New Hope. Then The Empire Strikes Back is my favorite, 100%. Kyle, have you got a list together of your Star Wars list?
I do. Are you wanting all of them?
All of them, because as you are our guest, we would like to hear, what your list looks like.
Well, and after I do this, I will have to cut out. So I do appreciate you guys having me on. But I think this is a great way for me to cut out on, because I think I'm going to make some people upset with my list. I've said some controversial things probably tonight. I've even, Empire Strikes Back. Let me just
let me just interrupt. There was another guest from Scotland who I think we're talking about, who's been way more controversial in the past. Wink, wink, Dougie from Walter.
I was about to say, yes. I will never take away anything from the cinematic genius that is The Empire Strikes Back. But for me, my ranking is based on a rewatchability, and do I jump to rewatch it? And part of my problem with The Empire Strikes Back is because it was such a phenomenon. It was such a well-done movie. It's the one that's replayed constantly. And so it's kind of lost some of its glimmer to me over time. Thus, you're going to see it lower in my rankings, but I don't think it's so much that it's going to be lower in the rankings that's going to upset people. It's going to be what's above it.
Oh, gosh. I'm ready to kick you off the stream in a minute.
This is exactly why I'm leaving now.
Careful, sir. Careful.
Number 1.
This is your favorite.
This is my favorite Star Wars movie that I've ever had the most fun watching. Solo, a Star Wars movie.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it is. I'm
trying not to scream.
My second favorite would be Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
The next one would be Rogue One.
Okay.
This is where I'm going to hurt some people. Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Again, remember, Dan, listen, I love.
And we lost him. Oh, no kidding.
I love 2 sides running across the field at each other and just smacking into each other. So that's why that wins there. And then it's A New Hope. Then it's Empire Strikes Back, followed by Return of the Jedi. And then they kind of interchange. Actually, I almost forgot one. Force Awakens is right there as well with Return of the Jedi. And then Episode 1 and The Last Jedi, they kind of, usually it's The Last Jedi that comes up winning over that one over me. But I would say right now, The Last Jedi is my dead last one at this point. And I don't hate any Star Wars movie. I love them all. But I know I'm a prequel. I grew up with the prequels. I love them. Revenge of the Sith and Solo are my favorites. And Empire Strikes Back, while a cinematic piece of genius, it is solidly in the middle of my rankings.
Welcome in, Joey. Joey says, "Oh my God, Dan has been triggered. Watch out." Look, I understand people's opinions. I respect people's opinions. Like, if you want to put Attack of the Clones over A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Empire, Force Awakens,
we'll have to have you back on to explain why. I guess
we will, for sure.
There has to be an explanation behind that.
I would love to hear an explanation, but I completely respect your list.
Yeah, absolutely. I
do not in the slightest agree with it. But that is your opinion, and I completely respect that list. So, but like I said, guys, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. We had an amazing time having Kyle from Eye to Eye Disney Through Our Eyes here, a wonderful YouTube channel known for their Disney trivia and reaction videos and just so much great fun. Kyle and Jessica have a fantastic YouTube channel, so please, you guys got to check out Eye to Eye Disney Through Our Eyes. Your trivia nights are fantastic, and everything that you guys do is amazing. So if a moderator could put Kyle's link in the chat, please go check out our channel and subscribe.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you,
Emily.
Thank you, Emily.
Anything coming up, Kyle, that you want to talk about? Anything coming up this week or any new videos?
Well, I'll be honest with you guys. We're in a bit of a slow period now because I kind of alluded to this at the beginning of the show. I do some other podcasting and stuff for something completely unrelated. This thing I'm wearing right now, that's very busy right now. We have right now just our regularly scheduled Thursday nights trivia that we do almost every Thursday night. It's very rare that we miss one.
Which a load of fun.
A series of vlogs from our last couple of Disney trips. I'm kind of behind. You're seeing still October 2018 right now, but there's more coming up from more recent trips. And then whenever movie reviews come out. So there's nothing brand new coming out, but we're in a little bit of a slow period at the moment, but those are the main things that you can expect from us. And we've got some ideas for some exciting things coming up soon. So now's a good time to jump on in and be part of not just this whole YouTube community within the Disney family that we have, but even more so ours if you haven't checked us out as well. But I love what you guys do. You are an inspiration, and I really appreciate not just you, Walt and Disney Dan, but everybody else that's here part of this community. It's such a great thing to be a part of.
Thank you so much. We thank you that you joined us, and you're definitely one guest we really wanted to have on, and I'm sure that
until that list came out. Now you never want me back.
Yeah, we ain't doing another Star Wars stream.
We'll have you back.
We'll definitely have you back for sure. Well, Kyle, thank you so much, guys. Eye to Eye, Disney Through Our Eyes. Go check out his channel. Walt, Empire is done.
Yeah,
one more original movie left. We've got Return of the Jedi next month on Walt's channel, Mouse Talk. Wow, we are getting closer and closer to Rise of Skywalker. It's crazy.
It is. I appreciate it, Kyle. I'm glad you were here, buddy. We're getting ready to get out of here ourselves. But thank you, Kyle, for joining us. Dan, as usual, thanks for hosting. Everybody, I've been posting some new vlogs. Go check us out. We have some real fun stuff out there. Savi's Workshop, we did that, creating a lightsaber. And a few other things. Check out our new videos, and of course Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays with live streams. So check us out. We'd appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. We just hit over 1,700 subscribers too, so we're moving forward.
Well, congratulations, my friend. Well done. And guys, please go check out my partner channel, Mouse Talk. Really wonderful YouTube channel. Streams Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays with loads and loads of different special guests each week. Disney Boffins, welcome in. Margaret, welcome into stream. We are just about to head out. And then as for me, Disney Fiasco every Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you didn't miss yesterday's stream, it was phenomenal. Celebrating R. Johns' first stream celebration. It was absolutely amazing. Mike Wheeler, sorry I'm a bit late. I'll catch you on the replay. Thank you so much, Mike. Not to worry, pal. I hope you guys really enjoyed the replay talking about Empire Strikes Back. But good to see you, pal. Yep, Disney Fiasco every Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with myself and Meg, and normally another special guest with us. Disney vlogs now from the August trip. I'm going to be posting, I think, every Tuesday or Wednesday. Please go check it out. This video this week is going to be our trip to see Winnie the Pooh at the Crystal Palace and Pirates of the Caribbean. It's going to be so much fun. Check it out. It's going to be great. And you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at DisneyDan as well. We are very, very close to 1,600 subscribers. We are like 14 away. So if you haven't hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, please do so. DBC Dad, so good to see you. Thank you so much for jumping in just very, very quickly. Thank you. We are actually just about to head out. We've had an amazing stream talking about The Empire Strikes Back. Absolutely amazing. Return of the Jedi next week. No, not next week. Next month over on Mouse Talk channel. We'll let you know the day, the date of when it's going to be. It's obviously going to be on a Sunday, normal time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's it. Well, guys, thank you so much. Return of the Jedi next month, Star Wars Sunday. Guys, like I always say, live your life with a smile each and every day. And I'll see you guys all real soon. and may the force be with you guys. See you,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.